data that you may have in your
Okay,
brain.
so in 1966, the Air Force, or 65 actually, there was a huge flap, and the Air Force put out a whole bunch of spurious explanations for some of the incidents that were covered in the press. That got them into a lot of trouble. Congressmen started looking closer at this. There was also a Armed Services subcommittee hearing on UFOs, and there was the Scientific Advisory Board in 1966 did a study of Blue Book, and they recommended that an independent scientific body take a look at UFOs, and it was recommended that somewhere around $250,000 be spent for that.
Wow.
The recommendation was adopted, and the Air Force looked for a number of universities, and most of them didn't want it, and the University of Colorado stepped up and asked to do that. So they were selected. Yeah. Well, they asked Harvard. They asked Harvard, and they asked Yale, and they were not interested. So
okay.
The University of Colorado was tasked to do that. And the Air Force was supposed to give them complete cooperation, which didn't quite happen. But so they studied UFOs for a certain amount of time, and when it got close to the end of their study period, they said, we need more money and more time, which they were granted. They finished their study in 68.
What did they base their study on? Data that was collected from individuals in uniform and out, civilians, or?
Right. Well, the thing was they were supposed to, or what they thought they should do, is look at current data, not go back into the files and try to justify or evaluate cases that were already there. They ended up doing some of that anyways, but basically they were supposed to look at what's going on now.
And they didn't have much of a forensic base back then. Our technology, forensics.
Well, they spent months just figuring out how they were going to study UFOs. So they didn't. It wasn't something that was easy for them. And after they did, you could say they had some good points. They wanted to have teams that could rapidly deploy if there was a UFO sighting, so they could get there right away and do some investigations right away. But a lot of the cases they selected were kind of poor. They did have, Roy Craig was in charge of that, Dr. Roy Craig, and we interviewed him. He did have an excellent kit to take out to field investigations. He had an excellent idea about we should try to find the most reliable people that report these things and the most strange cases. If we can find cases that are have rather high strangeness and high reliability, that's the kind of cases we should go out and investigate. But he broke his own rule almost immediately and went out and investigated two 14-year-olds, one who had just had a birthday and got a camera, and they were going to march into the woods and take pictures of flying saucers, which they succeeded in doing. And then Craig threw all his criteria aside and went out and investigated these two 14-year-olds. I said, yeah, my God, how did you think that is a good case to investigate? So their selection of cases wasn't that good. They did have an early warning network, which they got a lot of people from NICAP and other organizations to let them know if there were cases that might be interesting in their area. And they did investigate some of these cases. They went out and investigated Beverly, Massachusetts with Ray Fowler, and certain other cases that were actually substantial cases that they should have investigated. NICAP gave them a large number of cases that they thought they should look into, and so did Dr. James McDonald from the University of Arizona, but they ended up investigating what I would call trivial cases, maybe quite a few trivial cases. They did investigate more substantial cases, and from the more substantial cases, about a third of the cases they investigated still did not have an answer after they got through investigating, after these scientists got through investigating. In any case, Colorado said, there's nothing to this, and UFOs should no longer be investigated by the government. They shouldn't spend any money on it. Nobody should get any support in investigating this stuff. And they asked the National Science Foundation to go ahead and look at their work and see if they concurred. And I have some papers from the committee from the National Science Foundation that looked into this. In the beginning, the National Science Foundation the committee said, well, it may not be the last word, and we should always keep an open mind, but Condon came back and said, no, that's not what we want to do. We want to end all government investigations forever. And he was very convincing, and that the recommendation was adopted by the National Science Foundation. So,
did they have an academic team with an archaeologist, anthropologist, anyone in nuclear or paperclip or MJ-12 people working together with them? Or who are making these choices?
Well, the Air Force was supposed to give them full cooperation. And they were supposed to investigate cases the way, more or less the way Colorado wanted them investigated. So, yes, the whole of the U.S. government was supposed to cooperate with Colorado, including the Federal Aviation Agency and other agencies. So, yes, they did get support from other other agencies. But the Smithsonian was doing something about this same time. Was looking at they had the Center for Short-Lived Phenomena, and
Center for what?
The Center for Short-Lived Phenomena.
Short-lived phenomena?
Yes, things that take place in just a few minutes and disappear. So it's like a meteor or things like that. It was things that were hard to study. So the Smithsonian established that thing. And so when the Air Force closed Project Blue Book, they recommended that nobody look at UFOs, including the Smithsonian.
Let's just totally ignore it. And maybe it'll go
that's
away.
right. Completely no more investigations. That's what that was the Air Force's goal. They said that we want to close Blue Book and nobody else should do anything either.
Okay.
So they're the senior aviation organization in the government, so that at least in the military, so that was their what they believe that how things should be done. Nobody else should do it.
The Space Force doesn't get controlled by the Air Force then. Let's hope it's joint effort. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, right? Wow.
Right, but the Air Force said nobody should look at it. They recommended that nobody ever take a look at it again because there was nothing to it.
Might put the Air Force out of business. We don't want to know. Okay. That's an interesting way to look at reality. Just ignore it.
Okay. So, well, they said if there's anything that is militarily about UFOs, we will get that from other government sources, like the Air Defense Command and NORAD and things like that. But they didn't want anybody else investigating, and their supposed only reason for investigating was for national defense.
National defense, and this
national defense aspects of any UFOs that came along. That was their thing, and they said they didn't need any more. They didn't need any more reports from the public.
So DOD and Department of Defense and the Pentagon, and is that correct? But separately from the intelligence community. Which is
that was their recommend. That was they can't order these people not to do it. But they were the ones that it was established that the Air Force should be the lead agency on UFOs back in about 49.
Is that just because they had anything to do with the sky or air or stellar?
More or less that. So they at first when the Defense Department was set up, or they called it the National Military. They didn't call it the Defense Department. Well, they called it the Defense Department right away, but the National Military Establishment is. The Air Force was the lead agency, but the Navy and Army had input into how the UFO investigation was done.
Military,
but over the years,
wasn't a known factor, I guess. That grew after Eisenhower was claiming the military-industrial complex has apparently gotten its own teeth into some part of the government that not everybody was aware of, is what I understand. But I'm not sure about that.
The National Military Intelligence or National Military Establishment was another name for DOD. That's all it was.
Okay.
Yeah, so
we don't have any